We like to record, so welcome. Thank you so much. We are here with Sierra Brooks, and she is the founder of Bud to Blossom, and it is a team of postpartum doulas. And her story, as we shared getting ready for this meeting, is following the thread of curiosity around the birth world. Sierra started out interested in midwifery and became a birth doula through that, and then found out that she really loves the babies. And she was teaching childbirth education both here and in Nebraska. And then when she came back, she had some clients who wanted postpartum doula support, which looks like someone coming in and mothering the mother. That's what postpartum doulas do. And she had some clients, and they had some friends, and she had more clients, and she realized that there was a business to be had. So she started Bud to Blossom. She's the mother of two kiddos, and she lives down in Salt Lake City, and she loves all things birth and sleep and lactation and postpartum. So we're so really just so happy to have her wisdom here with us tonight, and she will be taking it from here. So welcome so much, Sierra. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for such a lovely introduction, Sarah. And hello, Danielle. And what was your name? Brent? Grant.
Grant, yes. Sorry, we're muted over here.
Sorry. I just want to say hello. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming. I will go ahead and share my screen with you. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm new at this, guys. Just a second. Yeah, there we go.
Just push the play, yeah.
Okay, well, she just introduced me. But tonight, what I really want to talk to you about is what I like to call gentle family sleep support. Some pictures of me and my family so you can get to know me a little bit better. And she already said all of that. The only thing on this slide that I do want to talk about is the very end, the last two, the one that's about my specialties. So she talked a little bit about some of my specialties, but ultimately my number one thing that I love the most is helping parents observe and learn and understand how their baby is communicating with them. And that actually goes hand in hand with my other specialty, which is helping families maximize their sleep with their babies. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, newborn babies and sleep. You're going to have a newborn baby. You're going to have a baby. How are you also going to get sleep? That is the question. So what I am hoping to do for you tonight is to give you some ideas of ways that you can prepare yourself for success with sleep right from the start. So the first 2 weeks, let's just put this out here right away, right from the beginning. The first 2 to 6 weeks is pure survival mode. It is just trying to survive the day and the night. And you really just do what feels right in that time, especially in those first couple of weeks. If you're breastfeeding or trying to breastfeed, then those first 3 weeks are really, really important to give the baby as much opportunity at breast as possible. And it is going to, even if you're not, however you feed the babies, it's going to look a lot like you feed the baby falls asleep while eating, and then is asleep for a little bit, and then will wake up for a little bit. It's very erratic. There's no rhyme or reason. But the first couple of weeks, we're just going to try to survive. And so my go-to answer for most questions with sleep and parenting is do it if it feels right. If it doesn't, don't. And a lot of times you're going to be like, oh, should I be doing this? The books say this and what have you. I mean, of course, ask your doctor what they think, because they will know your history and your baby's history. But ultimately, you know your baby's best. your baby better than anybody else, the best. So you are the one who knows the answer to the question of what should you do more than anyone else. But I'm going to give you a nice guideline so that some of these questions will seem really easy to answer. So number one, when setting yourself up for sleep success, and you can start this now, choose a set nighttime sleep space for your baby and keep that space consistent. Naps you can totally relax about. They can be anytime, anywhere, anyhow. You can hold your baby while they sleep. You can stroller your baby, carry your baby, wear your baby, put your baby in its sleep space. Whatever you want to do is perfectly fine. And then the number two thing to think about, and once your baby is born, and here's something you can do to help your baby with healthy sleep, is sync their circadian rhythm, or help them to sync their circadian rhythm. So you might wonder, what in the world is that? And this can be done pretty much anytime, honestly, anytime. This is not going to hurt the baby. All you're going to be doing here is giving the baby exposure to setting their biological clock with the sun, up with the sun, down with the sun. And so really what that means is getting them exposed to seeing the light change from dark to light and light to dark. So if they can be in a sunrise and see a sunset, that will greatly help their little circadian rhythm get into sync. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to happen over a period of time. And there's other things that you can do to support this, but you will be helping your baby so that their little body starts to want to go to sleep with the sun and wake with the sun. And so it's interesting because we're late into the summer now. And so the sun is going down, later, but it's, a little bit earlier and earlier each day. With babies though, it really comes down to what ends up working best for your family. So as far as a bedtime goes, it may be later, it may be earlier. Chances are with a newborn baby, it's gonna be later. I mean, the sun's going down later anyway, but don't be surprised if you find like sleep for the night happens starting maybe around the 9 o'clock hour. And so I just wanted you to know that that is a-okay, at least in the beginning. And as you go through this, it will shift and change. And, it's really kind of a perfect timing right now. When is your baby due? Since you guys are my number one people here.
We're not due until mid-October, so it'll be a little earlier than it is now.
Okay. Still, we can work with that. They might not see the sun setting, and bedtime might not be exactly spot on for timing, but and the sunrise may be a little bit later, but that might be okay. I don't know. But just get them in the sun for the first 10 minutes. And if they can at least be in the window and see the sun sunset, then that'll work perfectly. When it's a little bit warmer and you can do sunset walks, great. But you got to work with the weather and the time of year, of course. And so what are other ways that you can help your baby's circadian rhythm? During the day, like I already said, seeing the light of day change from dark to light to dark, and then getting them in the sun or a sunny window for the first 10 minutes. And then during the day, you want to have as much activity, light, sunshine, sound, stimulation going on around the baby. You just go on about your regular life and have baby nearby sleeping. They don't need to be put away for the nap necessarily, not yet. And then keeping the daytime sleep to just 2 hours. And we're going to talk about sleep cycles in a little bit, or sleep states. And you would wait till you see your baby in light sleep. And that's when you would gently wake them up if you needed to wake them up from a 2-hour nap. And the reason why you don't want to go too much longer than 2 hours is because we want them to do their big chunks of sleep in the night versus in the day. And you might have some time where you do have them sleeping longer stretches in the day and you have to do some adjusting, but it's all right. Don't worry. Everything will totally work out. These are just little tips that could help it along. And then winding your house down about an hour before bedtime, low lights, calming music, low activity. And then finally, picking this consistent sleep space. And once they're 2 weeks old, you can pick a bedtime, and you can start a bedtime routine. And then I've just put a little bedtime routine, just moving their or changing the atmosphere of the house to calm and light and low lights, and then just feeding, burping, changing, swaddling, and getting them back to bed. So actually, since I was just talking about bedtimes and bedtimes routines, I'm going to switch back to that, and we'll go back to the swaddle after this. Like I was saying, once they're 2 weeks old, gestationally, and that means that if your baby was born early or late, you would adjust the 2 weeks according to their due date. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So, like I was saying with bedtime, what time do you want to set it for? It's whatever time works best for you. You may find that during the day they have short wake times. And so in those wake times, you want them to be light and sound and activity and engaging and things like that. But you just want to kind of keep an eye on that. And actually, my next slide is going to talk about rhythm and timing and things like that, where you'll be observing what is their rhythm like? How long are their wake windows? And you'll discover that as you go in the first little bit. But so yeah, little setting a bedtime and a bedtime routine. We talked about a lot of this already, but I like to keep the bedtime routines short and sweet. You don't want it to be too long and drawn out. And the most important thing for you to know is less is more when it comes to getting your baby to sleep and what you do to get your baby to sleep. There's a lot of school of thoughts out there, and you just kind of have to pick and choose and find out what works best for you. But so some elements of a bedtime routine might be a bath. And so you just want to test that out, and maybe not right at bedtime, test that out during the day. When you do give your baby a bath, does it stimulate your baby or does it relax it? If it's stimulating, then maybe keep it for during the day, maybe in the morning. And if it's relaxing, then sure, add it a short and sweet little bath to the bedtime routine. And then maybe you feed the baby, burp the baby, burp really, really good. That's kind of important before you lay them down. And I also put a little note in there that I really like to hold the baby. It's my little baby right here. I like to hold the baby upright for at least 10 minutes, maybe 15 to 20 if they're a brand new baby. But holding them upright and giving them this nice tummy supported burping before they go down. I mean, it's a very nice transition from feeding the baby, whether it's breastfed or bottle fed. Here, I'll be bottle feeding my baby. All right, and so then I'm just gonna go right to here, and I'm gonna burp this baby for a while. And then once it's nice and relaxed, I can lay it down for sleep. And I can give you some tricks on laying them down. And well, actually, I'll just tell you right now while I'm talking about it. When I lay the baby down, I go nice and easy. I always lay the bottom first, let the baby's feet and bottom touch first, and then lay the rest of baby down. And then as I lay baby down, I just keep a hand on baby like this, a nice firm hand. And I might take a few long, slow, deep breaths where I really relax my shoulders and just hold my hand here nice and firm until I feel like the baby's settled. And then I'm gonna slowly creep away from the baby. And then you should be good. So it's my little tip for laying the baby down. Okay, you're gonna use that one all the time, I promise. And so then other elements of getting baby down, if you'll notice, I have this baby in a nice tight swaddle. Shake your head yes or no. Have you ever swaddled a baby before? Yes and no. Okay, all right. Well, just after this, we are gonna do some swaddle practice. So we'll do a nice tight swaddle and then maybe a song or a night-night phrase. A consistent night-night phrase is simply something you say, again, short and sweet is the key, less is more. Something you say that lets the baby know that it's time for sleep. So time for night-night, or mommy loves you, whatever it is that you want to say, pick something and repeat it, because there's this wonderful law of the mind, of the power of repetition. The more they hear it and the way that you say it and the consistency of it, the more it triggers what you want it to trigger, which is, it's not a trigger, it's an anchor, actually. It's something that lets them know that now it's time for sleep. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back and we're gonna talk about a good swaddle. So first and foremost, I love the stretchy swaddle. And you can just go on Amazon and type in stretchy infant swaddle and you'll get a plethora of choices. I really, really like it. It's not required, by the way. That is not required. A swaddle of some kind would be good. And it does help because a swaddle makes the baby feel like it did when it was in the womb. And it helps with that startle reflex. So it helps them fall asleep, but there are other important elements too. Babies need to get to their hands so that they can soothe themselves and they can show hunger signs. And I do like the stretchy swaddle because it gives the ability to keep the arms nice and tight, but also they can have access to their hands. As you can see, this baby's head is strong enough to stay up. No, just kidding. As you can see, this baby has a tight swaddle across the chest and arms, tight, but not too tight. My baby in my picture was such a small baby. This baby was probably like 5 pounds. And this was just days after he was born. So that swaddle looks really, really tight, but it's not as tight as it looks, I promise. So, but we do want to keep it nice and tight around the chest. And then we keep it nice and loose around the hips and legs so that they have plenty of movement in their hips and they're not restricted. And that all of this helps with their development. And so it's kind of tricky to show you how to swaddle on Zoom, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So, and how am I doing for time? Okay, good for time. Let's see if this works. All right, so I start off with a great big huge triangle. All right, and this is a lot of material. So I can do a really big triangle with this and just literally fold it in 1/2. I'm gonna let your imaginations go with that one, okay? So I don't have to hold it up because it'll make it a little bit more difficult. So the first thing I wanna do is I put the blanket on the table or wherever you're gonna do the swaddle, and you've got a line on top. You want this line to be, you want their shoulders to be right at this line. All right, so one of the keys is to not allow the blanket to get up near the baby's face. So that will help with that. And I'm just gonna show you, there's so many different ways of swaddling, and there is a really, really good video out there. You can just go to the website, 7 Swaddles, and you can see 7 different incredible swaddles. And I didn't put that on my last slide, but I can definitely add that. Okay, so I'm gonna put this baby's hands up by its mouth like that, okay? And you'll have to hold with one hand. It gets tricky. I'm gonna make it look not too hard, but it is a little tricky. I'm gonna give you my tricks. So I hold with one hand, and then I'm gonna pull this side out really nice and tight. And I'm gonna go from the shoulder, I'm gonna go across the top there, and pull this material over. And once I get here, I'm actually going to roll the baby to its side. It's gonna be a little tricky with this guy. And I actually like hold the baby like this and then tuck. I pull this out a little bit, the underside out. I tuck and roll the baby back over. You guys seeing okay? Ish, okay. And so I've got it across the arms. I've got it tucked nice and tight there. You can just lift it up, lift baby up a little bit on its side, pull, tuck, pull again. There we go. Now I'm gonna bring this, all this loose material can just flop up. And then this side, it's gonna be a little harder to see this. I'm just gonna show you like this. This side, I'm gonna pull out like this. I'm gonna go across baby. And you might even use one hand and pull just to keep it nice and tight. And then wrap it around. Voila. And you can even let the material go over the hand if you want. It's totally fine. Then the baby can get to its hand still. It's super movable, but a lot less likely that the baby's gonna sneak out of it because this material stays nice and snug. So across the top, here we go. And last but not least, we are going to wrap this around. And it did. You can adjust it however you need to. And I'm gonna pull it all the way over and tuck it right back in here. And so the hands can go all the way into, they don't have to be out, they can be all the way in. So the basic gist of a nice tight swaddle. Again, that 7 swaddles is a wonderful resource if you want a few more ideas. There is another one that's a lot harder to demonstrate like this, but not hard to do, but it just tucks, uses the triangle on top to tuck their arms in so that they have more movement, which is cool. So I highly recommend watching that when you have a moment. All right, so, and we talked about this. All right, so the first 3 weeks, you will find that the baby is going to be very, very, very sleepy. If they're basically going to be sleeping, pooping, peeing, and eating, that's pretty much it for the first few weeks. And something that gets a little tricky, I think, is that especially if you're breastfeeding, your baby is going to fall asleep all the time at the breast in those first few weeks. And it's totally okay and totally important. You want to give those babies as much opportunity to learn to breastfeed in those first 3 weeks as possible. But it's gonna look like this. You're gonna feed the baby. Within about 5 minutes, baby might fall asleep. So then you just move baby to here. I like this spot because it's heart to heart, chest to chest, and you could kiss baby here, but you're just gonna be doing a lot of this. This is gonna be happening, and you'll hand off to dad, and so on and so forth. That will be happening a lot. And so there's no rhyme or reason. It's going to be very erratic. It takes a lot of time before things start to make more sense, if you will. I highly recommend this book right here, The Wonder Weeks. And we will make sure you guys have this too. It's at the end of these slides, but we'll make sure you have this resource. I highly recommend this because it is some great information on baby sleep. And it will tell you about the first 10 big developmental leaps that babies have over the first 24 months. So it goes deep into sleep cycles, circadian rhythm, tips for you. But the thing I love most about this, because my favorite thing is how babies can communicate with us and how we can respond to them. This baby gives you all kinds of great information to understand what is going on with your baby and when. So when your baby won't stop crying and it's some weird hour and you're just like, I don't know, I've literally done every single thing I can think of to get this baby to calm down, but it's not. You can look and you can see, oh, my baby is at this developmental leap. There's this really fantastic page that just is a little chart that shows you by week where your baby might be at. And is it calm before the storm or is it the storm? And again, this book is based off of gestational age. So you would adjust the age if your baby is early or late. And so it will make more sense on the chart. And so just, I think any guide you can possibly get is excellent. And there's so many books out there. This is not a book about sleep training or even sleep learning. It's a book about helping you to understand what's going on with your baby developmentally and then also with behavior. Okay, and so the next thing that we're going to talk about that is super, super important is, and it's what you're going to be doing for the first, well, really the first year of the baby's life, but technically speaking, in the first 6 weeks, you're really going to begin to learn your baby. And you do that by observing. And you want to know, what does your baby do when it's showing that it's sleepy? And how can you respond to that? So, sleep signs. Have you ever heard about Dunstan baby language? Anyone? Never heard of that? So, I'm forgetting her first name right now, but she was a doctor, and her specialty was also baby language, but she could hear, she had a certain ear for cries, and she studied and studied and studied baby cries, because she had babies, like 4 of them, I think, and they would cry and they would cry, and the doctors just told her, babies cry, babies just cry, that's just what they do. And she said, no, I don't believe that. I believe when they're crying that they're trying to tell us something. So she studied thousands and thousands of babies, and in some came up with this really simple little language that is pretty similar across nationalities and such. So for sleep, it's just when they make their mouth shape an O. When they yawn, that's one sleep sign. They might rub their ears, they might rub their eyes, you might see color change in their face, maybe a little redness around the eyes I've seen before. But that's kind of one fun thing that you get to do, is be a mommy and daddy detective and find out what is your baby trying to tell you. And you don't need to read any books. All you need to do is read your baby. Your baby will tell you everything that you need to know. So you want to watch for signs of sleepiness. And I will tell you, my other favorite thing about baby language is when they have a burp, they say eh. So I'm not going to fill your brain with all of the details of the baby language, but the O shape for the mouth is greatly important, because when you see that, you'll be like, oh, they're getting sleepy. Have they eaten? Are they changed? All right, let's swaddle this baby up and lay him down. And doing that as much as you can from the beginning, although the most wonderful thing in the whole wide world is having a baby fall asleep with you and laying there with the sleeping baby. So that's always okay, no matter what. But once you're like feeling ready to, then whenever you can, when you see your baby's showing signs of sleepiness, swaddle them up, lay them down, and then get them into the rhythm of, this is what happens when you sleep. And the sooner that you respond to that, the better, because they can get overstimulated. You do kind of want to watch for that. So let's see, signs of sleepiness. I'm going to explain to you in just a second what the difference is between light sleep and deep sleep. And then we'll talk about the arm drop test too. All right, light sleep is when, and it's really kind of fun to do this as your mommy and daddy detectiving. Watch your baby while your baby is sleeping. And if you see movement in the eyes, under the eyelids, or any movement in the face, or jerky body movements, or if you hear fast breathing, or sometimes you can see that fast breathing, you're going to hear sounds, you're going to hear cries, you're going to see smiles, and you're going to be like, why does this baby not do this while it's awake? It's so cute. And you're going to think, man, my baby has got a personality under there. He's a comedian. And anyway, so all of those things tell you that your baby is in light sleep. And when you do the arm drop test, and I'll show you what that is. If your baby is sleeping, if you lift the arm and just drop it a little bit, if your baby reacts to that at all, your baby is in light sleep. If your baby is in deep sleep, it will not react to that whatsoever. So that is your number one key. Arm drop test is a great thing, and also watching their face. And in deep sleep, you will see no movement in the face or the body, and the breathing will go a lot slower.
I'm going to interject really quick because that arm test I talk about with my mamas that are nursing, and when the babies fall asleep at the breast, which happens all the time when they're really little, by lifting their arm just like that, it like if it just falls, then you're gonna wake them up. But a lot of times when they're just in light sleep, they'll fight you and a little bit, and that keeps them engaged in nursing. So yeah, use that. It's like a barometer.
Perfect thing to add right at that time, because it is true. And like I was saying, your babies will fall asleep at the breast, or babies will fall asleep at the bottle. And there's a lot of school of thought on there. Some people say you need to keep your baby awake and put your baby asleep awake. That works for some people, and it doesn't work for other people. And babies do fall asleep while they're eating, because actual enzymes are being released in their stomachs during suckling that relaxes them. And then there's all these other elements. There's hormones in milk that makes babies sleepy. Being close to skin or close to a parent will make them sleepy. So there's lots of reasons why your baby's going to fall asleep while eating. So don't ever let anybody tell you that it's bad, because if you can find a way to transfer your baby from eating to sleeping to being laid down, then excellent, go with that. I always say, stay the course, whatever's working, go with that. Okay, now on to another one of my favorite subjects, calming a crying baby, because this is definitely going to play into your sleep. For one, getting your baby to go to sleep, especially once they're past the newborn phase and you have to do a little bit more to get your baby to sleep. Number one thing is always going to be get yourself calm first. You need to be calm, because your calm is baby's calm. And how are you going to do that? I put up on my slide just my favorite way of doing that. And that is I like to do at least 3 slow deep breaths, but you breathe in through your nose, you fill up your stomach first, then your chest, and then as slow as you can, maybe 2 times as slow as your exhale. And as you exhale, you just relax your first your face, your neck, your shoulders, and just let it drop. And when you do that, you will feel your baby do the same thing. It's amazing. I promise. It's a magic trick. It really is. Skin to skin is one magic trick, and breathing with your baby is the other magic trick I have for you. And then you want to repeat that 3 times. And each time you exhale, you'll notice you get a little bit more relaxed, and you'll feel your baby just set into a more settled state when you do that. Hold on. Okay. When you breathe with your baby, here is what's happening. Your baby's breath will sync with yours. Your baby's heart rate will meet yours. And then you transfer your calm energy to your baby. You can always add a shh or a sound or any slow rhythmic movement to this. So one thing that I do want to talk about, I'm just going to unswaddle this. We're going to pretend this baby's swaddled. So one thing that I like to say, and this is for when you're getting ready to put your baby down, when you've had to when your baby falls asleep in your arms, or when you need to calm your baby to get them to sleep. So you fed them, now we're up here. So I'm breathing with my baby, and I start with, some people might instinctually, you kind of do this, right? You start to move. I want to say, go with that if you're feeling like doing that, but always keep in mind, you want to move slow to stop, okay? So we're going to pretend I'm standing here in just a second. So you hold your baby, and always, I like to do a burp when I'm holding my baby upright. They probably just ate. I'm going to hold and burp, and I'm just going to do slow and rhythmic. And even if I'm feeling anxious, or if the baby was crying a lot, and you may have to start with more of a jiggle and more fast movement, that's fine. Just eventually remember, slow your breath, get kind of calm, make it slow and rhythmic. And then eventually just be stopped and practice standing and holding and breathing with your baby, or sitting and holding and breathing with your baby, and then going for the transfer. Okay, so it's the thing that I just want to help you with is to not try to do too much. That, like I was saying, less is more. Okay, oh, I'm at the end. What questions do you have? And do you feel like that all made sense? And thank you.
Yeah, one question I had, well, you go first if you have a question.
No, you can go first.
My question was just around feeding, and then the baby falls asleep and you haven't burped the baby. How important is it? Do you just take that sleep when you can get it, or?
No. So say you're feeding the baby. Okay. All right. This baby is dead asleep, and you fed them. You just roll that baby up onto your chest and give them a good 10 minutes just doing this. I know it seems like a lot, but it will really help, because one thing that can happen if you don't get a burp out, and especially in the early days, is that when you go to lay them down, they're just going to spit up, or they will have that burp come up, but it'll come up more with spit up, or they could have an upset stomach. Mm-hmm. And I would just at least give it a chance. Even if it's only 5 minutes, that's good.
Perfect.
Okay.
I was going to ask about, so I feel like, so we're first time parents, so this is all new to us. But I feel like I've seen a lot of kind of the sleep sacks and swaddle, that are kind of a all in one kind of deal where you just zip them into it or snap it or whatever. Do you have any thoughts on doing the stretchy swaddle and more of a traditional rolling them in there, or using something that's kind of a pre-made swaddle?
Those are great too. Those are excellent too. Whichever ones you like the best. I honestly think that they're both really good. The ones that are sleep sacks and with the arms that Velcro around, or the wings that Velcro around type of a thing, those are great. The only thing sometimes with Velcro is that when you go to undo it at night, it can be loud, but it's still excellent. I would say the muslin blankets I find to be the hardest to work with, because they slip out of place really easily. Okay. But anything with Velcro on it is great. That makes me feel good and safe when I'm when I'm with a client overnight, because I know that the blanket's not going to get up in their face. And that's kind of my big concern with it, but that they still have that security. So, so good. And also the sleep sacks are fantastic, especially as baby gets older. And there's
yeah,
that
and that's the thing is like a lot of them seem to be like for when they're a little bit bigger, not newborns. But yeah, I was just curious since I don't know, I just feel like it's such a like popular item these days. But was kind of curious if we should still get like more traditional swaddles or the stretchy swaddles for at least like the first couple of weeks.
I think that you might be pretty happy with the stretchy swaddle in the beginning, and then you can definitely move away from that. And
Okay.
it probably wouldn't even be that super long. But and also I wanted to add, Grant, that first and foremost, if you felt like your baby was fine after you fed them and that you're like, this baby's out, I don't need, then I would go with that.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to try to get a burp, great, but it's not like the end of the world if that doesn't happen. What other questions do you have?
I hadn't heard that you, or why are you putting the baby down feet first? What's the trick on that? That's something new to me.
That's a good one. Okay, I really, really like this one because I wish that was a little higher. Okay, so the reason is when you go to put a baby down like this, it gives them that feeling like they're falling backwards. But when you let their feet hit first and then rest their bottom and then slowly rest their head, then it's just a smoother transition and they don't really feel that as much at all.
That's really cool. What I appreciate that. What's your take on the like the snoo or the apparatuses that are moving? Is that a short-term solution or is that sustainable? What have you seen, Sierra, in terms of like babies that fall rocking?
Yes, I've had a lot of clients use a snoo. And I think of all the things I would probably go with the snoo over anything else, although I do like the bassinets that have movement to them where you can adjust the height and things and adjust different things and maybe even give it a little rock. That's fine. Because some movement is good. I mean, they're used to being in mom's belly and having movement all day long nonstop. So I don't think movement's not a bad thing. And the snoo is kind of cool because of the fact that you can transition it with the age of your baby and what's appropriate for development. So it's really can be amazing, honestly. And I don't know. It kind of, once again, it just depends on the family and what really works best for them.
Yeah, that's good. But you've seen babies transition out of moving into a crib that's not moving, obviously.
Yep. There is this point that comes with it's about 4 to 6 months where you will find no matter what you're doing, things will change. So and babies need to be able to move more. So I mean, without the snoo, it's kind of nice because they have more possibilities for figuring stuff out themselves versus the snoo kind of does it all for them. But you still have that point where they come out of the swaddle, they're unzipped, and they start to roll, and that rolling and movement becomes really important for helping them figure out how to get themselves to sleep and back to sleep in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I love that. One thing that I like to remind my mamas too is that there's no like spoiling newborns, right? There's no like there's this I think hesitation for all parents that, like, I don't want to put my baby down and I don't want them to, sleep in my arms for 15 years. And, there's a lot of, in between, but it's really like, how long, Sierra, would you say that you really can, like, you have until they start to kind of need a little bit more structure? Like, what's the window that you see with the growth of the babies?
I am with you. I just feel like if you ever feel like you want to pick your baby up and hold your baby or let your baby fall asleep with you or whatever, I feel like you should definitely do it. And there's literally no spoiling or holding a baby too much. The thing that can happen is that your baby could get really used to falling asleep on you. And so that's fine as long as that's fine with you. And so that's why I say, like, as far as a window goes, I hate to put a limit on it whatsoever, but um, you know, it, they're so little for so long. So you're just like, but that, they're considered newborns for the first 3 months. So maybe that's a good general guideline because they really start to they have these great little bodies that can do so many things. And so as they develop beyond like 6 weeks, when they start to like getting to the point of rolling, um, then maybe it's good to just practice putting them down sometimes. So if you've gotten really used to letting your baby fall asleep in your arms, wonderful. Every now and then, maybe a couple naps a day, just swaddle that baby up and set it down. And you can always keep your baby near and you can always have a hand on baby. That is a really great thing to kind of another anchor to let baby know that I'm here, you're safe, it's time to sleep. But it can be tricky though, because
I have a question, Sarah. At what point, I know we're talking, that was kind of more when should you not maybe spoil baby, but at what point does the baby have a more regular sleep rhythm and pattern? And when should you be looking to put them down for naps at like a more regulated time and bedtime, I guess?
So I'm going to say once they're at about 6 weeks, I think you start to recognize their patterns. So you may see, and I feel like maybe I skipped over that slide or something, but noticing their patterns. What do they do? What does your baby's window of wake time look like? Jot it down. Don't be crazy and make a big chart or anything like that, but just write down, my baby seems to be staying awake for, it's going to range anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 to 3 hours, depending on the baby's age. So you just kind of want to notice that as you go, and you will find that your baby, even by like 6 weeks, is starting to have a rhythm. And then you'll find that some of the naps will drop off. And so I'd say by the time they're rolling, you'll have a little bit more regularity with timing of their sleep. But as far as full on, you're able to predict when this baby is, when this baby is sleeping through the day and when its bedtime is, I'd say it's 4 to 6 months. And it can range because all babies are different. Does that help? And is that in line with what you've noticed too, Sarah?
Yeah, I think that is true. And I think just preparing yourself for 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I see a lot of suffering when we attach to the night before and you're like, I thought we were onto something, So I agree with that generally, and I, just holding it, lightly, I think. But I see a lot too, is you mentioned this, just to reiterate, I see a lot of, I think the biggest thing we can do is watch our babies. And I remember this with mine. And if I was out, it was inconvenient when they yawned, because I was like, oh, I was really hoping I could get my post office run in. But I think getting them to a place where they can nap when they're starting to show the sleep cues and starting to really know those sleep cues, because having that window of sleep before they get agitated is kind of a game changer. And so the sooner that I was clearing my agenda and watching, making sure that they could sleep when they were tired, I felt like they got into more of a pattern of sleeping. And then it kind of steamrolled into, sometimes it was easier than others. I'll just say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that whenever we would have really good nights, be like, oh yay. And then whenever we'd have really bad nights, the only thing that I knew is that it was going to change one way or another. So if it was a really bad night, I was like, we had 3 good nights last time. So just remembering, like, yep, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But they regulate eventually.
Yeah. I think it is around 6 months where it feels like, okay, there's a nap going on in the beginning of the day, there's a nap in the middle of the day, there's a nap in the early afternoon, and there could be one more little nap before the sun goes down, maybe. So I feel like, but again, I use these terms so loosely because every baby is different, and you're just gonna find out what your baby's pattern is. And I concur with all of the things you were saying about the window, and just celebrate your victories and successes, and just know that nothing is as it is, as it's going to be forever, because everything does change. So, and it's all in phases. And, but I do think though, once they really start sleeping really long stretches at night, that once you figure out what got you to that point, it gets easier and easier to continue to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think also just the reiteration for mama and for Grant also, for partners to sleep when you can, because especially in those first few weeks, because when we talk about, postpartum wellness, we think of like, I'm like a gas tank. And once we get like half full, half empty, I'm an optimist, so I'm half full. It's really much harder to fill up if you go below. And so it's really like preparing for birth is all about opening and relaxing. And then I feel like when I come home with my baby, I just like shut the shades, and like it's kind of like closing this portal. And it's really bizarre because I've been a high functioning adult for so long, and I'm used to like answering emails in the hours of 8 till 5, and you're just like I'm exhausted. And so just really like being aware that everything is a little bit upside down and it's not forever, and it will help you just stay, hopefully healthier longer, at least, keeping your sense of humor for a little bit longer. So, that's what we root for. So sleeping when the babies sleep, I think, is just so important too.
Yeah, I was just going to concur. Sleep when you can. And I know it sounds ridiculous. It really does. When, like, as you said, when you're a high functioning adult and you're used to getting things done and doing stuff during the day, especially after you've given birth, it becomes incredibly important to just stop and give yourself permission to let all those things go and focus solely on your body and your mental health. And it's good bonding time too, if you can. And Dad, you're going to need this too, even though maybe your body didn't just give birth, still it's a huge life-changing emotional, it's a very physical and emotional event. And so just to honor yourselves and listen to your bodies and allow for this one little tiny snippet of time that you can do that for yourselves, even if that means you hire someone like me to come in and hold the baby while you sleep, then just make sure you get as much sleep as you possibly can. And do take a little cat nap with the baby. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the best thing in the world.
I think that's what he's looking forward to the most.
Yeah. He's like, I'll be sleeping with my baby.
Yeah.
It's magical. It's the most magical time.
I love that.
Well, thank you all. This is very helpful.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Mel, for coming. I see you. I'm so happy our friend is home with her second baby, so she's freshening up on the tips. But we really appreciate you, Sierra, and I wish you guys a great night's sleep tonight, everyone. But thank you so much. I appreciate you, Sierra, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure and my honor, and all my best to you guys. And thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Perry. Have a great night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You too. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.